First thing that we should know is what is high availability. In very simple terms and basic layman language, we can say that high availability means my system must be available whenever I want. It can be any time, any day, any situation. My system must be available. When I say system, in our case, it would be our database. So high availability means highest uptime. Your database must be 24 by 7 up and running. Now the question would be like, okay, if something happens to the production, that is when Oracle answers these kind of questions by providing multiple solutions to these kind of issues. For example, if you have a disaster at the production site, you have a disaster recovery site, nothing but the DR site. So more on DRs and all we'll discuss in some time. But for now, high availability simply means that my system must be available 24 by 7, or my system must be available whenever I want. This is the simplest definition. Next, high availability nowadays is becoming the demand for every business. Now when we say demand for every business, let us understand, if you remember your parents or the earlier generation, if they need money, they had to wait for the bank to open. There was no concept of ATMs and all. So for example, if on a weekend, like on a Friday, if your parents need some money, or maybe if they need some emergency cash, there was no other option than to borrow money from someone they know, and then they would withdraw money on Monday and return back the money. That was the situation in those days. The ATM concept came into picture, and again, if you remember closely, first all the ATMs were installed only in the branches, or only in the bank branches where bank resides. There were no ATMs which were installed where there was no branch. Initially, even the ATMs operated as per the timings of the bank branch. Even though you have an ATM machine, but it will operate, or it will be accessible only at the time the bank is open. But due to customer demand, due to the needs of the customers, the bank had to expand its operations in terms of ATM, and slowly they started installing only the ATMs separately out of the branches. But when this was started, not every bank had an ATM machine. Only few of the banks had the ATM machines. Perfect. But the banks which were not having the ATM machines, they identified and even they felt the need of a teller machine to be available 24 by 7. Now, how banks are identifying the needs of the customers is nothing but it's the demand of the customers. And the demand of the customer says that I must have access to my own money 24 by 7. That is nothing but a customer demands that, okay, I have an account with your bank and I want to have an access to my own money 24 by 7. And that's when, now today if you see, every lane will have at least 3 or 4 ATM machines of different banks. Now this is nothing but the result of high availability, nothing but access to customer accounts or money 24 by 7. So high availability is nowadays becoming demand of every business. When we talk about every business, it's into every thing that we do today, like shopping online, banking online, trading online. Of course, trading has some timelines, but definitely you have access to your trading accounts. I mean, everything that you do, the high availability is being implemented in every business. And also, if you see closely, high availability is entering into every sector. Now, one simple and sweet example of understanding really if high availability is entering into every business sector is if you go to any portal today or any website today, you will see 24 by 7 support. If you compare like 5 years before, most of the sites would have some timings of support, like from morning 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or maybe a fixed time in between which they will only give the customer support. But now if you go back to the same sites, they have turned their model from a fixed timing to 24 by 7 timings. Now why this has been changed? Because of customer demand. Customer wants to have availability to the services 24 by 7. Customer wants that somebody should give me support whenever I want. That's why high availability is entering into every business, and also high availability is entering into every sector. Now again, when we say every sector, it is not only the infrastructure sector like IT industry, it's into every industry. You talk about hospitality, you talk about hotel industry, you talk about travel industry, you talk about airline industry, and of course the IT industry is already there. Everywhere, even the defense sector, everywhere you will have the high availability. And this concept is getting in everywhere. It's not only on particular businesses or particular sector. Everybody wants to change into a model which is highly available for the customers or clients. Now that is the basic understanding about what is high availability. Let us look at what are the high availability solutions provided by Oracle. The first solution we have is Oracle Flashback. In simple terms, Oracle Flashback is rolling back your database to a time. We know that ARM and restore recover is forward mechanism. We cannot take the database back in time with restore recover method. Oracle Flashback is opposite of restore recover. Oracle Flashback is not at all forward method, but with Oracle Flashback, you can roll back your database to any point in time in the past. More on Oracle Flashback when we are into Flashback topic. So the first high availability solution that we have from Oracle is Oracle Flashback. Next is Oracle Data Guard. Let's take you have a primary site and you have some natural disaster at the primary site and entire production servers are collapsed. Then you need to have a recovery site. Now let us discuss more on Data Guard. Okay, we have the primary site and let us understand this is our production DB. So the production DB is not at all accessible due to some natural disaster. Entire production server is collapsed. Now remember, if a natural disaster occurs, it will be in a certain range or certain area or maybe in at least certain part of the city. If we have the disaster recovery site, nothing but a site or another server which is exact copy of production DB, when something happens to production DB, client will switch to the DR server. So for now, just understand your disaster recovery site will have another server, nothing but standby. This is a standby server which is exact copy of your production DB. If something happens to the production server, clients will switch to the standby server. For now, this is our definition for a DR site. Now, when we talk about a natural disaster, if something happens to the production site, the natural disaster will always impact some range of city or some part of the city or maybe a entire country. So it makes no sense at all to maintain a standby site directly in the same city where you have the production server. Now you will have a question, okay, if I should not keep my standby server in the same area or the same city, then where should I keep it? The first goal of standby database is you must keep it exactly geographically opposite location. For example, if you have a production server in US, on a globe, when you turn the globe exactly opposite to US, you must keep it either in India or Singapore. So the first requirement of standby site is you must keep your standby databases to a completely different geographical location. You should not keep it in the same city or same country at least. This is the minimum requirement of standby site. So what Oracle Data Guard does is, simple terms, Oracle Data Guard provides you high availability or nothing but the disaster recovery. So if something happens in US, you have the servers running in India or Singapore, which will provide the data for the clients. So clients will still have high availability on their applications. They won't feel like, okay, something has gone wrong. And remember, when there is a natural disaster, it takes even months to rebuild the production. So when you do not have access to the production, clients are still continuing their business on standby for months and months until you get the production server up and running. In simple terms, Oracle Data Guard is a high availability solution from Oracle which deals with site failure, or Oracle Data Guard is high availability solution for disaster recovery. If there is a disaster at production site, with the Oracle Data Guard technology, you can recover all the transactions and everything, all the transactions onto a different site and allow clients to work through the standby server. So one important thing to remember in Oracle Data Guard is it should be in a physically different location. You should not keep your standby system in the same location as in the maybe in the same city or maybe in the same country. You should not do that. You should keep it entirely into a different geographical location. At least it must be into the neighboring country or in a different continent. And the most finest solutions of high availability is Oracle RAC. This is the booming technology right now, Oracle RAC, and everybody in the market is switching from standalone server to Oracle RAC. Now what is this Oracle RAC? In simple terms, you have standalone server. If something happens to that standalone server, of course, I have the data guard site, that is secondary, but data guard site should be used only when you have a disaster at the production site. But there is no disaster in the production site. Then, and still I want that if something happens to the production server for like 1 or 2 hours, I still want the availability for those 1 or 2 hours. I don't want that to switch to the DR site and then after 2 hours I'll switch back to the production site. That is again a manual intervention and it's a big headache. Let us look at this one. We have the production site and we also have the standby site, nothing but our DR site. This is prod and this is DR. Remember, disaster recovery is the name of the site and the server which serves as the exact copy of the production is known as standby server. So these two terms are interchangeably used, but they mostly mean the same thing. Okay, I have this configuration which are separated geographically far into different continents or different countries. But let's take, there is some issue with the hard disk on the production, something went wrong and there is a downtime of 2 hours or it will take 2 hours to rectify the issue. As a DBA, I don't want that clients to be switched from production to the DR site only for these 2 hours and once the things are up and running perfectly, switch back the clients from DR to the production. This is okay, you can do, but you cannot do this kind of switching from production to standby and then standby to production again and again. So what is the solution to avoid even these kind of issues where my production is not available for some short span of time? Because remember, DR should only be used. It is recommended that DR site should be activated only when there is some natural disaster at production site. But right now we don't see any natural disaster. There is some technical fault, and that technical fault is causing a downtime for some specific amount of time. Only for this specific amount of time, I don't want to activate my DR site. Now, what is the solution from Oracle? Oracle says, why don't you use Oracle RAC technology? Oracle RAC technology is nothing but your database instance will run on multiple systems, node 1, node 2, and your data files, all the database related files will be stored in a shared storage. And all the nodes will be interconnected through a network which is called as private interconnect. So let us assume your clients are connected to node 1 and something happens to node 1. Automatically the clients will be switched from node 1 to node 2. So in this case, even though there is an issue with your production server for some short span of time, you still have another server which is giving the answers to all your client queries. This is nothing but Oracle RAC architecture. In simple terms, Oracle RAC gives solutions for system failure. Let's take something happens to the node 1. You have node 2 which is still giving the answers. And let's take if something happens to node 2, definitely you have node 1 which is serving all your clients. Basically, Oracle Data Guard is for site failure. If something happens to your production site, Oracle DR site will be activated. But Oracle RAC is a solution for server failure. If something happens to the server for certain amount of time, you have another server which will solve the purpose. Now this brings us back one more question. Then what is the purpose of Oracle Flashback? The purpose of Oracle Flashback is to solve human errors. Now you will have one more question. Why again a new technology called as Oracle Flashback to solve human errors when we already have RMAN restore recover method in place? Let us look at this question. Great. At any point of time, see, a user issued a delete command, or maybe he did something wrong in the database which is to be reverted back. Let's take the time when user did all these kind of wrong transactions was 2 hours before, and I want to take my database back in time 2 hours before. So I can simply do a restore from a backup which is taken before this point of time, nothing but before the user issued these errors, whatever the backup is available, I will restore the database from this backup, and then I will keep on applying all the archives till the point when the user issued the command, and I will open the DB. Nothing but I'll perform a PITR, point in time recovery. Fine, I can do this, but what if my database is of 25 TB or maybe my database is of 50 TB? The first thing is to perform the restore. Just to perform the restore will take 3 days if you are going with normal RMAN method. Now, can you have 3 days downtime in a production server? No, not at all. Then what is the solution? There should be some solution, right? A user issued some 2 delete commands. Just to roll back those 2-3 delete commands or 2-3 wrong commands, should I go for, or should I have a 3 days downtime? Not at all. That is not the solution. So the solution that Oracle has is pretty simple. It is called as Oracle Flashback. Let's take, this is the database timeline, and these are nothing but your weekdays. If a user issues some wrong command over here or at this particular point of time, and currently your database is at this time. As a DBA, what you can do is you can make your database travel back in time, like just before the query was issued. This is called as flashback. You are traveling back in time and open your database exactly as it was at that particular time, and your database continues on a different timeline. This is how Oracle Flashback will work. Oracle Flashback is a roll backward technology. ARM and restore and recover is a forward technology. These two are different. Remember, both of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. The one biggest advantage of Oracle Flashback is if a user is issuing some wrong command and I want to just roll back before the command was issued, I can use Oracle Flashback. This is the simplest technology. When I want to perform entire database restore and recover or cloning, I cannot use the flashback technology. I have to go with RMAN restore and recover method. Both of them have their own advantages and disadvantages, but definitely more on flashback when we are onto the flashback topic. So now we have seen all the high availability solutions provided by Oracle. The first one is Oracle Flashback. Oracle Flashback can be used whenever a user is issuing wrong commands and you just want to roll back those commands. Because if you use RMAN restore recover method, it might not be appropriate when your database size is very big. So Oracle Flashback is a solution for human errors. Oracle Data Guard is a solution for site failure, and Oracle RAC is a solution for server failure. These are the high availability solutions provided by Oracle. Now, one very important point that I want to make here is, of course, this point should have been already cleared when the course was started, but once again, as a DBA, if you want to make your career as an Oracle DBA, you should know Oracle Flashback and Data Guard. There is no exception to it. You cannot say in any interview that I don't know Flashback, I don't know Data Guard, or I did not get a chance to work on these two, because as we know, high availability is entering into every business, every sector. You should know Oracle Data Guard and Flashback completely end to end. This might again lead to one more question that, okay, I'm stressing more on knowing Data Guard and Flashback, but there are already DBAs in the market who don't know Oracle Flashback and Data Guard. That is separate. See, those people might have got jobs when the high availability concept was not so much booming in the market. But today, this is the need of the business, and if you know these two topics, I'm not talking about Oracle RAC, I'm just talking about these two topics. If you at least know Flashback and Data Guard, you will have more preference on your resume and you will be considered for a job interview at least. These two topics are must and you should know end to end, at least in today's competitive market, because all the interviews today start directly with Data Guard and Flashback. Now when we talk about, okay, Data Guard, you might get scared like, oh, Data Guard is a very big topic and will I be able to practice it or not? Data Guard, first of all, is very simple technology. It's only until you understand the concepts. Now, any which ways we are going to see regarding the Data Guard. Once you know the Data Guard and once you practice it with the practical assignments, you would definitely feel confident. It's a very simple and sweet technology. You just need to pay more attention than your normal DBA topics. And Oracle Flashback is very simple, and you have only few commands to activate Flashback and move your database back in time. We'll look at both of the topics in some time.